Like just a week ago, I went up and I flew a jet, like a fighter jet, just because it was on my bucket list. And I always sort of knew I was going to hustle. I don't think there's anything that special about me, but what is sort of special about me was just when others quit, I just kept going. One of the most powerful words in business is next.
Welcome to The Business Game, a podcast that moves the needle. Hey guys, before we get started today, we just want to take a moment to thank one of our sponsors, TraffTrack. If your traffic control, construction, or security crews are still juggling manual check-ins, scheduling, and resource deployment, you're leaving productivity on the table. TraffTrack's app automates shift assignments and timesheets in seconds. Visit trafftrack.com to see why over 1,000 industry professionals rely on it every day. And thanks again to TraffTrack for supporting The Business Game. Hello and welcome to The Business Game, a podcast that moves the needle. I'm Steve Plummer.
And I'm Coolness.
Before we get started today, make sure you like and subscribe wherever you're listening. Now today we're joined by Greg Cassar of the Collective Mastermind. Hi Greg, how are you going?
Hey, very good. Thank you both for having me.
Yeah, fantastic. Great to see you again, Greg. Greg and I go a long way back with shared clients and working together over a number of years. So it's going to be a really interesting conversation today. All right, Greg, to kick us off, tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now.
Well, traditionally, I've always been known as a business and, sales marketing guy. And that worked well. Like I ran a marketing agency and ran a coaching organization, and we've got 2 e-commerce stores in the travel space. But how I've really built a lot of wealth was when I've morphed from just business to business plus investing. And that's really when I've noticed the big difference as far as like setting myself up for life. And that's kind of where I've largely been focused in recent years.
And you're in a pretty good space right now with that, aren't you, in terms of the balance of both of those?
Yeah, agreed. Like all throughout the first half of my career, it was all about just trying to grow the business. And I made that common mistake of just reinvesting money back. And then over time, I really learned that to get the business plus investing, and then ultimately to try and have a combination of cash flow as well as building a big golden goose, and then ultimately having a great lifestyle, at the same time. So I moved to a tropical location, much similar to like what you guys are, and then just trying to do the full lifestyle by design and have the business run around the lifestyle rather than that whole scramble with work and then sneak in a little bit of fun.
I love that. Is that something that you sort of design in when you're working with people? Is that something that you would suggest from the start? Just go design your lifestyle and sort of create it a business or what's going to work for you around that? Or is that just something that you just stick to for yourself? Or do you suggest it for others?
No, definitely for others. But I do think that there's seasons to business and life. So like at the moment, I'm 50 years of age and I've been at it for a while. So I've got good at it and I'm helping others to get good at it. But there's been times through my career when, I really didn't have the right level of cash flow. And it was one of those like all hands to the deck, sort of thing. And just work hard. And then other times when it's all come together and being able to buy, time and money freedom. So I definitely think know where you are in the seasons, but certainly don't put everything into the tomorrow basket. There's that mentality of earn money all your life and then enjoy life in retirement. Whereas I try to build an amazing life resume, as we're going. So every week, every day, I'll be surfing. Like this morning, I went surfing with my son, or we'll do something fun, like get out on e-bikes. Just a week ago, I went up and I flew a jet, like a fighter jet, because it was on my bucket list, and learned how to put it into spins and all this kind of stuff, just because, why not?
And so Maverick, how was that as an experience?
Was
were you
crazy.
inverted or? Yeah, how did that go?
Yes. He taught me how to go inverted. Yes, I was able to fly the jet completely upside down and then pull it out of a spin and all that. It was actually very intuitive. Very hard on the body though, because the jet was doing 690 kilometers an hour and pulling 6 Gs of pressure onto your body. So afterwards, it felt like you'd been in a prize fight, sort of thing. And I'm not much of a fighter. So that's kind of like how I felt afterwards. Pretty beaten up, but amazing experience at the time. But really, just the point is that whole life resume. So what are cool, fun things I can do through my year, and then what are cool, fun things I can do through the week. And I still work hard, but work hard, play hard, and get multiple streams of income going so that if any one thing drops off, it doesn't really hit me. I've got a couple other things on the go.
Sure,
Yeah.
keeping it balanced.
Yeah, I love that term, life resume.
Yeah.
I think that's a really powerful term.
I'm
Yeah.
going to keep that one. I love that.
Yeah, we'll borrow that one for sure. Yeah. Greg, that's now. Can we go back to your childhood a little bit? What do you think set you up to become a life resume kind of guy?
Well, I was always had good hustle. I think like as a kid, I remember selling goats and selling zucchinis and tomatoes and all that kind of thing. Like I always sort of knew I was gonna hustle. I don't think there's anything that special about me, but what is sort of special about me was just that when others quit, I just kept going. And so like life, sometimes things are amazing, and then other times you get kicked in the guts. Often when people get kicked in the guts, they quit. Whereas I'll just like pick myself up. Okay, what are we going to learn from that? Keep going. That sucked, but keep going, keep going. So that was kind of, yeah, like how I just persevered in a way, kind of like persevered my way, just kept evolving and pivoting every time something didn't work to get there. But I also like, Steve, one of the things we've spoken about before was early days. Like I had no money and my parents had no money, and I went off to like university to study IT, so computers and business, because I knew that was where the world was headed. And yeah, so I had to literally like join the army. I was in the reserves, just to fund my way through. So I kind of like have done a lot of not great jobs, and then now I'm at the point where I don't kind of like have a real job as such. Just, I'm one of those, that guy got lucky, and the full internet lifestyle, but luck is labor under correct knowledge, and no one ever gave it to me. You know what I mean? So that I've been waiting at times for a knight in shining armor to ride along on his white horse and save me, and he never arrived. So I thought I should probably roll up my sleeves and do it myself.
I love that.
Yeah.
If you could pick a couple of pinch me highlights throughout your career, what would they be?
Do you mean like good highlights? Or
Hey, I mean, if they're a highlight, if you found a really beautiful thing, like the collateral beauty of something, that's a highlight too.
Well, one that really stands out was actually like something bad that happened, but out of that something good happened. So before I was an entrepreneur, like my first thing out of work, out of the day job, was running a marketing agency, which I still do recommend for people because it's a great way to learn, in other people's businesses and stuff. But before that, I had a day job like anyone else, and I worked my way up in the IT game to become an enterprise architect. So I used to design computer networks for banks and insurance companies and large steel manufacturers, these kinds of things. And my customer, who was a large steel manufacturer, they came to me and they needed effectively storage. They needed disks, and they told me what they wanted, and I designed it for them, but what they wanted wasn't actually going to meet their needs. And so I designed a bigger system for them that was going to meet their needs for a year and a half instead of like 6 months. And I did a $1 million upsell. And so I was learning sales and marketing at the time, and I was good at it. And so instead of a small sale, I turned it into a big sale. The customer went for it. They were very, very happy. And like I got told in my company, hey, you made us an extra $1 million. You're going to be rewarded for this. And they gathered everyone around the afternoon tea bench, and there was like a cake and stuff. And I thought, it's going to be a car or it's going to be a pay rise. And Maya is a discount, like a large store here. And they gave me a voucher for $200 to that, so I made them $1 million and in sales, and they gave me $200. And then but at the time, it really felt like a kick in the guts. But then sometimes, life happens for you, not to you. And it was at that point that I really realized that one is the worst number in business, and I was never going to be dependent on one income stream ever again. And so it was that very day that I decided, hey, I need to get out and I need to steer my own ship. And then within, I think it was roughly 4 to 6 weeks, I was out of the day job. And from that point, ran a marketing agency and been doing it ever since. And that was 2003, and now 2025, and never had a day job since that day. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
So that was a highlight, but came out of a low point.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I don't want to make this sound really negative, but can we just talk a little bit about some stumbles? Because we always say here that success isn't a straight line. It's not linear, right? You start here, you end there.
Yes.
It's a success. Well done, everyone. What do you think, I guess, has been the biggest stumble for you and your business? And what did it teach you?
I think I've gone down the wrong rabbit hole maybe 10 or 12 times. Do you know what I mean? Like just different things over and some of them just like little things, and then, hey, we got to pivot, and then others spectacular. Like, so I had Santa Suit World, so I was good at e-commerce. I was selling Santa Claus suits online. And yeah, so with that one, I had one supplier, and then we're getting into like late November. Things are really ramping up. This is good, good, good. And then my supplier says, "Hey, we're all out of Santa suits. Sorry about that." And so then it just like went, "Doo!" And then, but in February, he contacted me and said, "We're good to go again." But there was no demand for Santa Claus suits in February. Do you know what I mean? So that was kind of like another, one is the worst number in business. And then I also learned to not over time. I did the herbal Viagra business for a while, and I learned with that one. I learned a lot with that one actually. But one thing was to not do businesses that the big traffic mediums. So whether it was your Googles and Facebook, and that if they didn't like it, then basically they could shut you down and yeah, make it very, very difficult to do business. And so that was like, I got shut down. I got banned from Google for that for many years. And I was a Google ad premier partner, like I ran Google ads on a big scale. So that cost me a lot of time and a lot of money just by doing things that the big platforms and the big channels didn't like. And I think it was also, like being dependent on one channel. I think often sometimes we get like, and I know I'm guilty of it myself, Facebook ads is working, I'll do more of that. Or Google ads is working, I'll do more of that, rather than trying to get some of these other channels, working over time.
With that, when you reach that point with a business and you go, it's not working anymore, like, is there something that you have like a system where you go, okay, it's ticked all these boxes, we got to close it down? Or is there some sort of moment where you go, okay, this is it?
Yeah, so I learned that one of the most powerful words in business is next. And so it's like, we've gone as far as we can with this. Can we pivot? Can we change it and make it work? Or sometimes we just got to say next. And that's why I spoke before about, I like to have a multi-leg stool. So if we only have one leg to the stool and then something happens to that leg, then all our income drops. So that's where having 2 or 3 other things on the go, if one doesn't work, this is often in the early stages of figuring out a business opportunity, where you just got to try things. And so sometimes you'll just deliver for those customers, but then stop taking on new customers and then focus your energy in other areas. But then once you get like a full hero business where everything's working, and I've learned that business is really just about the multiplication of capital. So if you can take capital, put it in and amplify it multiple times, at scale, then you don't necessarily need as much of that multi-leg stool. But certainly when you're figuring different things out over time, that has been very, very important.
Greg, just on that, we hear that that phrase of, whoever chases 2 rabbits catches none, which is a bit of a pushback against the multi-legged stool. So is there a difference between what you're talking about and that, I guess, that split focus?
Yeah, I think both points are valid. That is a very good point you raise, and I am guilty of that at times, of that he or she who chases 2 rabbits catches none. But at time, if you don't have a proven working model, I think just pursuing one thing can be difficult. So that's why, like, sometimes I'll have 2 or 3 things on the go, and then one will become a winner, and then it'll get most of my energy. But I've also learned to stack and batch time as well. So say, for example, like one of the ways that I get a lot done is by how I manage my calendar so that I can work on multiple businesses. And so like my mornings, I really preserve them and I keep them free. And so in the mornings, I work on building whatever it is that I'm working on, building businesses, how am I moving things forward? And then in the afternoons, that's when I'll have things like meetings where I'll work on how can I service my customers? How can I, help other people? And so sometimes I literally may have these days I'm working on this business and those days I'm working on that business. If you look at Elon Musk, he has multiple businesses, but he goes to Tesla one day and he goes to SpaceX another. And so I do the same sort of things, but with my afternoons of these afternoons I'm working on this business and these afternoons I'm working on that business. And then I try to batch whole days where I have nothing on and I can just get stuff done or just choose life.
Yeah, cool.
Like that. With that too, when you're choosing businesses, sorry, I'm so interested in this.
Yeah, no.
Like, do you choose based on something that you're passionate about or really interested in, or are you just looking at trends and going, okay, I think this might work? Like, how do you select the Santa suits and like the herbal Viagra? Like, where does that come from? Like, what's that process?
Yeah, so there's different business models, and as a general rule, there's kind of four main business models online. So my favorite of all business models is SaaS, software as a service, and because you've got the most leverage, you've got code working for you as well as internet and media and a whole bunch of things. Then there's info product. I've done well in that space as well. E-commerce, really done well in that space. And then there's services business, like you could be a local service or it could be a national service. So I've done all of the four business models, but what I've found is there's kind of like a freedom scale associated with it. And SaaS, software as a service, if you get that right, that has the most freedom associated with it because, you can build a whole system that doesn't revolve around you, and it's just got so much leverage. E-commerce, like we sold over $10 million worth of baby products on Amazon. That was a great success for us. But the problem with e-com I found was that you always need to be buying more stock, so like you have a great run, you need to pay tax and then you got to buy more stock. And so sometimes you've got your money just going around, in a circle. Info product, I love that as well. But I think it is getting more difficult, with so much free info out there. And then the services business is great. But ideally, if it's not just tied down to one thing. So if you can provide a service that is like all over a country or all over the world, so that's why I run a mastermind because it's very leveraged. And I think post-COVID, people are happy just to jump on a Zoom. They don't feel like they need to go to your office anymore and that kind of thing. But as far as actually choosing the individual businesses, one of the things I found, because I'm a growth hacker, I'm an expert at scaling companies. Sometimes some of the biggest things I've done, I wasn't even the original, guy that started it or girl that started it. I was just worked with them on marketing or something, and then over time morphed into a growth hacker model is, instead of paying me fee for services, how about don't pay me anything, but if I make you extra money, then give me a small percentage of that extra money. And so it's very, very risk-free for them. But to have a growth hacker come into a company and scale it, it literally, can make it take off. And so some of the biggest things that I've done, actually, I didn't start. They were, growth hacker models. And then some of them I even ended up on the cap table over time, becoming a full partner in them.
I love that.
Yeah, cool. Greg, let's focus on that growth hacker model
Yes.
kind of thing. So when you decide to partner with someone, with a hero business, with that profit share that you mentioned, what's the green light for you? What does that look like that makes you go, yeah, this is the one?
I want to make sure that, Frank Kern says, avoid a square moving wheel. So if it doesn't have momentum, then it's very, very hard, right? So you don't want to ever be involved in saving someone's life because what they have isn't working. So ideally, I'm looking for a business where it's succeeding despite themselves. You know what I mean? They may not have a whole bunch of main channels working, that kind of thing. So if I can see something's already doing well and but it's missing a whole bunch of channels or it's missing a whole bunch of follow-up, Because there's basically, when it comes down to it, there's three main ways to grow any business. So I'm looking at these sorts of things. So how can we, one, get more clients? How can we, two, get them spending more? And how can we, three, get them coming back again? So I'll think through sort of the framework of that, and then make sure that if I go into it, I already know that I'm going to win to a degree, or I'm not going to go into it. And sometimes I'll just test the waters with, like, let's just do a 3 month trial of me just doing some stuff with your business, and then, then morph across into that. And another part is coolness factor. So coolness factor is income divided by stress. So what if you've got high income but low stress? That's ideal. But if you have low income and high stress, that's a disaster. Sort of thing. So I try to avoid anything that doesn't have a great coolness factor.
Yeah. Cool. Is there a red flag around that? I know you've given the principle. Is there one thing that might point to that? Well, hang on, that's really uncool.
Yeah. And often it's about founders and mindset, psychology. Naval Ravikant says people conflict when they don't have values, morals, and ethics in common, right? So yeah. So say for example that the three of us were going to work together, and the business was like an absolute slam dunk, and there was no problems, but we didn't meet, or like if we didn't have the same values, morals, or ethics, then it would be better just to walk away, because what I do know is it'll often lead to conflict. And I think the whole, as much as 80% of success is your mindset and your emotional intelligence. And so if people haven't done the work and learned how to, for example, emotional intelligence, learn how to control their emotions so that their emotions are smooth rather than being spiked, up and down all the time. Yeah. So just avoiding those kinds of people into my life, just making things, more fun, smoother, happier.
Yeah. I do love that term, the coolness factor, right?
Yeah.
Like that's
Income divided by stress. It's a big one. So that's like a lens that I look through everything with now, because I don't need to take on any individual opportunity just to hustle. You know what I mean? I'm not down to my last brass razoo, but if something comes along and it's fun and there's a bit of coin to be made and everyone can win, that's the other thing. I'm not interested in making money if I'm the only one making money. Like if the three of us were working together, everyone's got to be winning, or otherwise it doesn't feel fun. Do you know what I mean? And I think everyone's got to be enjoying it. But yeah, so coolness factor has been a very, very big lens to look at things through. Filter. Yeah.
Just on values, what are your core values that you use to guide you through your business journey?
Yeah, great question. I think I've always played the long game. So like at times I've seen people who've come along and they were like really, really successful, and then burnt people or relationships, along the way. So I've really valued trying to treat people the right way. And I think you only get one shot at your reputation. And, we've been at this for a long time, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I've been able to really like preserve my reputation. And at times I've even kind of like took it on the chin and gone above and beyond just to set things right if something didn't go quite right. So really playing that long game, treating others the way that they want to be treated, and just having fun, on the journey. So I kind of like I play zero stress. I play zero games. You know how you meet some people and they're kind of like energy vampires, and you don't know, you walk, if you walk away from an interaction with someone and you feel yuck, then they don't have good energy for you. So I'm a very, very big believer in energy and reading people's energy, and just passing on good energy, treating people the way I want to be treated.
I love that. Yeah, that exchange. It's so important, right? We have so much value just in how we treat others.
Yeah. Well,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's a very human thing, Greg. Let's go a little bit unhuman, if you like. Let's talk about AI and AI in business. Now, I know that you use AI in some of your companies.
Yes.
What's your take on AI, the impact it's having, jobs, and maybe even where it's going to go?
Yeah, it's there's a concept called lean in and there's a concept called lean out. So lean out people are like, that's not for me. I'm not going to learn AI. those people, unfortunately, if you fast forward 5 or 10 years, the future does not look so bright for them. If you lean in and you're like, okay, well, hey, this thing's not going away. I'm going to really embrace this. I'm going to learn how to use the tools, etc. I think then you can be on the right side of what's happening here. There's no doubt about it that a lot of people are going to get you put off. Like I had an executive assistant and I had to sack her recently, and she's amazing. I love her. She's great. But there wasn't the work anymore because I started using an AI tool called Whisper Flow, where you just hold down the function key and you talk to your computer and then it types everything you said. So by just using that one tool, I started working at 3 times the speed as I was working before. So previously she was helping me with like my inbox, and then I didn't have any problems with that anymore. So that's just like an example of of an AI tool. We in our travel companies, so we've got 2 large travel e-commerce brands. With those, all our ads now are created by AI. So all the Facebook ad images and all the Facebook ad videos are all created by different AI tools. And then even like automating the way we build out travel destinations, it's all created by AI. Even some of the like the after sales, sorry, like support after hours phone support is done by an AI voice bot, and we have AI chatbots and that kind of thing. So it really has got into every aspect of our business. And what I have learned out of that was that you can whinge and complain about it, but if you are not doing any of those things and then you're competing with a brand like us who is doing those things, it's very, very hard to compete because it's just like having extra workers, for very little wages. I do think for society, it's not great long term. I do worry about the number of people that are going to be without jobs over time. I think if you're like a lower skilled office worker, that kind of thing, there's project type work and there's process type work in offices. If you do process type work in offices, if you're not the strategic thinker, if you're not calling the shots, then a lot of those people are at risk. But everyone has the same opportunity to, hey, we know this is coming, just upskill, get on your resume, get really, really good at all the different AI tools. And I spend an hour a day, not just on AI, but AI investing, all sorts of stuff, just learning. So, okay, this is the version of Greg right now, but who do I need to be in a couple of years' time? And how do I keep, I've a top 1% mindset. That's the way I look at it. It's like, well, what do I need to be learning? Who do I, what I need to be thinking? How do I need to become how do I need to think to become the top 1%, not just now, but, in a couple of years down the track. So always learning.
Hey guys, just wanted to do a quick shout out to our affiliate partner, Opus Clip. If you need great videos without hiring an editor, their AI engine turns your raw clips into share-ready content in under a minute. No skill required. Find our link in the description to support our show and get a great sign-up bonus. Create more, stress less with Opus Clip. Now back to today's episode. One of the things, Greg, I've heard you say in the past is this concept of being directionally correct.
Yeah.
I know that's been a big part of your success. Can you
Yes.
talk to that? Because I think that's a really, really interesting leverage point.
I love that you've picked up on that, Steve. Yeah. So I've always said this thing of just being directionally correct. What that means is like not everything that we're going to do is going to work. Not everything that we're going to do is going to be like successful in some one way or another. But as long as we're constantly moving in the right direction, then that's okay. For example, with diet and nutrition and exercise and all that kind of stuff, I used to be overweight. Not proud of it, but I just really didn't understand about nutrition and all that kind of stuff. And then I changed my mindset of, hey, that's not me anymore. I'm not going to be that anymore. And I learned all about nutrition and biohacking and supplementation, etc. And then, so most of the time I'll eat pretty well. But if I'm on the road and I've got to get somewhere, I'm happy to pull in and have a burger. It's not great, but I'm directionally correct most of the time, meaning that 80-90% of the time I'm directionally correct. And that's the same, whether it's with your business, your marketing, your diet, anything like that. Just think, hey, am I moving in the right direction? And if so, then I'm doing okay.
Yeah. Adopting that, what, if, impact did that have on your life and your success, adopting that particular mindset?
I think, yeah, 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. 100%. Yeah, it just basically meant that I was always moving in the right direction. And I looked at my life as far as, okay, what are all the aspects that I want to optimize? And such as like, where do I want to live? Like, how is the body, the health, the fitness? How is going to be the income streams or the business or the coolness factor? How is going to be the investing, like the golden goose, that kind of thing. So I look at like all those different facets and relationships, all those facets of my life, and then am I directionally correct on each of those? And then if not, what are the gaps or shortfalls and what do I need to do to make sure that I am? And that way I think you really can, like people say you can't really, have it all, but I don't know. I kind of disagree because I think if you're willing to play the long game and you're willing to just keep 1% better than you were yesterday, just keep getting better and not quit even when it gets harder. I really think you can engineer to have it all if you're willing to keep learning and willing to keep evolving.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah.
When you are in a tough mindset where you're
Yeah.
feeling a little bit low and you're struggling and you're not so positive and you're feeling a little bit out of sorts, do you have like a ritual or something that you tell yourself or some little something that you do to pull you out of that and keep you directionally correct?
Yeah, and I think everyone does have those. I certainly don't have them as much anymore as I used to. There's no doubt about it that, like people say, money doesn't create happiness, but one thing money does do is it gets rid of a whole bunch of problems. So, for example, cleaning my house or mowing the lawn or whatever, these kinds of things. I don't have to worry about those sorts of things anymore because they're just kind of, taken care of. When I am like, for example, if I have low cash flow or there's a whole bunch, bills piling up, there's no doubt about it. That sort of stress, does weigh on you. So getting more successful definitely, helps with stress. But your question was really, around mindset. I like try to, I think, the ants, annoying negative thoughts, and I like try. I've got this thing of catch it. Okay, is that helping me or is it hurting me? And then if it's not helping me, how can I move it on? I studied NLP for a while, neuro linguistic programming, and that was very, very good as far as like learning how to control the subconscious brain. I don't think enough people spend time learning how to control their subconscious brain. And then also changing my physiology. So like with breathing and that kind of thing. And sometimes it's just like, say if it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon or whatever, and I was beat and I hadn't had a good day, I may say, you know what, that's enough for today. I might get out, get exercise or have some fun. And then tomorrow morning, I'm going to hit it hard and I'm just going to get in there early and go for it. But other times it's just like, and we spoke about it before, the reality is no one's coming along to save me. Like the reality is no one cares about me as far as, so if I don't do it, there's no one going to do it for me. So I just have to, it's not even an if, because I think a lot of people do what they want rather than what they need. And so, yeah, like say I do just want to veg out at the end of the day or whatever, I'll reward myself with that if I've done what I needed to do. So, yeah, I think mind over matter really, but it's a good question. It is very hard. Yeah, I do understand that.
Yeah. Just on that, you've spent over $250,000 learning from some of the world's top coaches and top
Yeah.
minds. So I don't know, can you give us one lesson from that investment that you still use to this day? One or two even. I'm thinking two, maybe even three. Yeah, a couple of your big takeaways
Yeah.
from that investment, Greg.
Yeah, because what they're talking about, like I used to, for many, many years, I used to travel from Australia to the US, all the time for high-end masterminds. Because what I love about masterminds is you effectively compress time and you get results faster, and it teaches you to think bigger thoughts and dream bigger dreams, so you can see, like what's around you. When I was in Ryan Dice and Perry Belcher and Frank Kern's mastermind, and I did that for a couple of years. And one big thing that came out of that was I learned about selling. And when I was selling, I used to sell based off my version of success. So this is what I thought they need. And then through that process, what I learned was this concept of view through. So how to view through the prospect's eyes rather than what my version of success is. So, and often you can do that by, future pacing them. So an example of future pacing might be you're trying to get the prospect, the person that you're speaking with, to go forward. So an example might be, so hey, Kalina, you know who we are and what we've done. So imagine if we were working together now and we're sitting together in a coffee shop a year from now. You're looking back on all the wonderful things that have happened in your life. What would have had to have happened to you both personally and professionally for you to say, wow, that was an amazingly successful year. I really need to know what does success look like to you, right? And then I zip it. And so if you then tell me what your version of success is, it then makes it very much easier for me to say, well, can I actually help this lady or not? And if I can't, then is there anyone else who could? But then from moving into transitioning into a close becomes much, much easier because of I then know what your version of success is. And then another big thing on selling that I learned from that was like often people are, when they're getting up to the awkward bit of selling at the end of like, oh, do you want to buy this? They don't really know how to close it. And I've got a couple of magic words that I say at the end of a sales process. It was like, yeah. So, got any questions for us? They got no questions. So then, really, just final question is, do you want a hand with it?
Ooh,
And
yeah.
then I just zip it. And so see that way you're asking, do you want to move it forward? But you don't have any of this awkward, do you want to buy, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
So
buy my
just
stuff.
That forceful.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
yeah.
there's enough
yeah,
noise
yeah, yeah. So
online
it's
for
just, do you want to, yeah, do you want to hand with it? So that was kind of like a couple of like really, really big ones that made an impact in my life. But I think the biggest thing out of being in masterminds and all that was the mindset and the belief and the modeling around you, just seeing, hang on a second, that guy or girl's not really any better or different to me, and look what they're doing. And often it came down to speed, like sometimes I was just moving too slow, and success really, really follows speed. So just going faster. A lot of people say I'm too busy, I don't have the time. It's like, hey, just get up an extra hour earlier a day and yeah, there's like an extra 30 hours of productive go, 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 go. And that can make a massive, massive difference in someone's life.
Is there a single year that you experienced peak growth, and what is it that you think made that year explode for you in terms of?
Yeah. There's one year that really, really changed my life was 2017. And that was the year that I still remember it at 3:12 a.m. and I just sat up in bed. I was wide awake and I just figured out Bitcoin and like I really, really understood Bitcoin and I knew that the supply was limited and I knew that the demand for it was going to increase and I knew that the price of it was going to basically increase forever. And I woke up, I woke up my wife and to say that she was less excited than me.
At
Very
3:12? Yeah.
accurate.
Yeah.
I
But
get that.
again, yeah.
She told me go back to bed, like go to sleep. And but I couldn't. I was just too excited. So I got online and I researched and researched and I tried to find holes in my plan. But with that, like then I backed up the truck and I bought a lot of it. And a lot of people laughed at me at the time. But then, I was 100% right. And if you fast forward, yeah, what are we now? 8 years later, there's not that many people that laugh at you for buying a lot of Bitcoin anymore,
Yeah.
sort of thing. So that was kind of like I knew to know and not to do is not to know. So like on the investing side, I was doing dabbling and all that, but I was a business guy. I wasn't thinking about B+I. So Robert Kiyosaki, his famous book, The Cash Flow Quadrant, he talks about how there's four ways you can make money, and you can be E, which is an employee. You can be S, which is self-employed. You can be B, which is a business owner, and you can be I, which is an investor. And I was just in the B quadrant. And what I learned was you can be in any of those quadrants as long as you add I, then you get your money working for you. So you can be an employee who's also an investor or self-employed who's also an investor. But if you look at every billionaire in the world, what are they? They're a business owner who's also an investor. And that was kind of like really when I morphed to becoming a serious investor. And because I'd spent all this time learning business. And then I thought, hang on a second, how much time have I spent learning investing? Nearly none. And so that's when I then flipped the switch and was like, okay, well, now I need to do my 1,000 hours, in this discipline. How do I remember I spoke about that top 1% mindset. Okay, well, how now do I become a top 1% guy in this space? What do I need to learn? Who do I need to become? That kind of thing. And so just went down that. And then I learned about different like vehicles as well. So you can have build wealth in your personal, you could build wealth within the company, or most people have a 401k or a superannuation and it's growing at like 10 or 12%. But then it might have 3 or 4% of just inflation and 5 or 6% fees. So they think their money's growing at 10% a year, but it's actually growing at 3 or 4. So like, and I made that same mistake for many, many years. So I learned like all those sorts of things and then how to outperform the control. That was when I really learned how to not just have the business cash flow, but then build a big golden goose so that over time, when you get later on, you can then, harvest its eggs and provide cash flow from that. So that was kind of the biggest thing.
Yeah. Can I
Bitcoin.
ask, when you said
Yeah.
you dove in to do your 1,000 hours of the discipline and learning,
Yes.
where did you go? What do you have for our listeners? Maybe some places to start in terms of investing, business books, AI, anything that any like top tips where to start?
Yes. So YouTube was kind of like my biggest thing, and TikTok later came later on. I learned a lot on that. Books. So going on Amazon and just figuring out, and I bought courses. Uh, I'm now teaching on that subject as well. It's free. It's called Business Invest Freedom. Like that's my YouTube channel, and businessinvestfreedom.com. I'm going to publish. Like now, I'm building a series about how to build your wealth and systematically. So that'll be on all Business Invest Freedom. That's free. Uh, there's another guy on YouTube that I follow called Invest Answers. His name's James. He's really, really good. I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot from him. But I think the first thing is just really like identifying, hang on a second, am I doing just B or am I doing B plus I? Am I doing business plus investing? And if you're not getting, and how much time have I spent learning business? And then how much time have I spent learning investing? And do they match up? And if not, is it valid for me to now start learning more investing? And the earlier you start, like you're a lot younger than me, so you've got an advantage over me as far as investing goes because compound interest over time, gets really, really crazy. But because I was a little bit older when I started doing it seriously, I had a little bit more capital, which then allowed you to multiply. Because what I found is that the math doesn't care, if you have $100,000 or $1 million, a double is still a double. And so over time, after you get past your first million, I definitely think life gets the math gets easier. But I really don't believe most people have a path or really know how to engineer their wealth, into that $10 million and beyond. And I think it's a formula and it's a recipe and it's a very much a learned skill.
Greg, you and I connected many moons ago in the marketing space, and I know your team's, 500 million in sales online. Before we finish, I'd really just love to pick your brains a little bit. So what are a couple of marketing plays that are working right now and maybe ones that most people still aren't using?
From a content and commerce point of view, like leading with value, organic social is something that I kind of avoided for a long time because I was just too busy and I didn't really see the need for it and that kind of thing. But now, as SEO, search engine optimization, is morphing more to AI, what they call, like AI SEO, if you think of it like that. So if someone goes to Google and they do a search, they're coming back with a group of answers. If they go to ChatGPT and they ask the same thing, ChatGPT is giving them recommendations. And so the same traffic that converts from Google might convert at 1%. And if the recommendation came from ChatGPT, people are treating it like they got it from a trusted advisor or a friend, and that same traffic converts at 10%. Okay. But then, so say, for example, Steve and I both had exact same skills, exact same everything, right? But he was providing value out onto the internet in the form of whether it's video content or written content and all that kind of thing. And ChatGPT in this example was able to see that he is a trusted authority. And even if my skill set was better, arguably in this hypothetical example, if it's not visible, it's not what you know, it's what you show. So what I have learned is that like really leading with value, that kind of like that moving that free line is just so important. And now in the age of AI, it's more important than it ever has been before. And as everything gets more and more commoditized, one thing is the demand generation, just saying, like, say I watched this podcast and then I identified, hey, these two are sharp. I really want to work with them. And then I'd go down the rabbit hole of researching YouTube, you know what I mean? That kind of thing. But so I think leading with value and then having marketing behind it. If you look at Alex Hormosi's most recent launch, right, it was one of the most successful launches in all time, if not the, from an info product point of view. But how much content did he put out? How much value did he put out beforehand? People already knew, liked, and trusted him. So that then when he made an offer, it was a no-brainer. It's not like, I don't know whether I can trust this guy. So that's kind of like one of the big things for me and why I'm now doing organic socials, whereas in the past, I've kind of avoided it. So that has been a big one. And then the other thing was like just really using AI in the amplification of media. So, for example, with the Facebook ads, there's a tool called Ideogram AI, which allows us to create really beautiful images with writing on them, that kind of thing. Or there's another one called adcreative.ai, which it's not really that pretty, but it allows us to create a whole bunch of AI Facebook ads, like really, really fast, things like that. So just getting leverage, from those tools.
I do have just a couple of little things, Greg, before we finish. Number one, if you could send a one-sentence message back to your younger self before starting your first agency, what would that one-sentence message be?
I kind of live by the ethos of like, work smart, play hard, and enjoy the journey. So I don't think that I would change anything on that. Definitely it would be, the mistake that I made, guys, was I always knew the winners as far as with technology. I knew Google was going to be a winner. I knew Facebook was going to be a winner. Like I knew Amazon was going to be a winner. And I did millions on all of those platforms. But was I smart enough to buy the stock as it went up 10,000%? That kind of thing. I really was not smart enough. And so the same opportunity exists right now. Like the dot-com boom, there's the AI boom that's happening. And again, we know the winners, and the 80/20 on that is, hey, what are the two biggest industries in the world as far as where the future is going? The Wayne Gretzky thing of like, hey, Wayne, why are you the best at ice hockey in the world? And he goes, it's simple, because everyone skates to where the puck is and I skate to where the puck is going. So it's like, figure out where the puck is going. And so here it's AI and it's blockchain. And then that's the 80/20. And then what's the 80/20 within that? So it's kind of like, that was the mistake that I made before that cost me a lot of money. And I'm not making that mistake again.
Yeah, wow, that's really cool. Love that. Thank you. Greg, before we finish, we get to know the person behind the screen, if you like, with 5 rapid fire questions. So I'm going to fire 5 questions at you. 1 or 2 answers are appropriate. So are you ready? Here we go.
Okay.
All right. What was your first job?
Tractor dealership. Just general guy at a tractor dealership.
Excellent. Number 2, the one thing you couldn't live without.
Wife and kids.
Number 3, iPhone or Android?
iPhones, just there's no comparison.
Agreed.
I knew you were going to say that, by the way. But anyway, and I think we know the answer to this one. Early riser or night owl?
Oh, definitely the morning. And also because most people don't understand, like I'm a male, testosterone peaks in the morning and it drops off through the day. So anything that you need to get done, get it done early.
And lastly, what was the last book you read? I can see a few behind you on the shelf.
Yes.
What was the last one?
I'm actually just last night I was reading the Alex Hormozi, the $100 million money models.
All right, fantastic. Greg, thanks very much. Now, where can people find you and your company?
So the mastermind is at collective.com.au, and all the free content that we're putting out now, if you go businessinvestfreedom.com, that's probably the best resource. I have links off to all the different channels and stuff. And on YouTube in the shorts, Business Invest Freedom. That's where we're really publishing a lot of free stuff to help people.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Thank you, Greg. On that note, thank you so much for your time and for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've got a bucket load, Kalina. I don't know about you.
Yeah,
Value was
amazing. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Wow.
Excellent. Thank you for having me on the business game. It's been a pleasure.
That's all we've got time for. Greg, thank you once again. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and we will see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.
To help support our continued mission to provide free, best-in-class advice from the world's most compelling business leaders, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an episode. See you next Saturday. Thanks for tuning into The Business Game. If you like what you heard, make sure to subscribe on YouTube and follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn to stay connected. A big thank you to our major sponsor, TraffTrack, for powering today's episode. And join us again on the next episode of The Business Game, a podcast that moves the needle.